It's Fit Boss Jazz, and today I am going to talk about how my fitness journey started as a pole dancer, and who was Polestar Jazz. So I got my little notes so I can stay on track on the things that I'm supposed to be talking about. How I started. All right. So grab some popcorn, have a seat. It's story time. I was still in the military. I was going through, I don't even want to call it a breakup. Let's just say I was in this situationship with this psycho, and I might have been half the psycho, but anyways. And we basically stopped dealing with each other, stopped messing around with each other, and just cut each other off, right? Or really, I cut him off, but anyways. Anyways, I was scrolling on social media. Mind you, I was already in a vulnerable place in life because of that situation. And so it made me like susceptible to like things that wasn't good, right? So I'm scrolling on Instagram and I see this girl and she was pole dancing, but she wasn't in the club. So it kind of like drew my interest because I'm like, that looks pretty cool. It looks different the way she was doing it. And she also did, it's called aerial sports. So you have the pole, but then you have like the silks, and then you have hoops. She also had like her hair rigged to where she was like performing from just being held by her hair. And I was like, at the time my hair was short, like 2 inches long. So I was like, yeah, when my hair get long, I want to do that. And so, but right now, I'm about to buy me a pole. So that is what like inspired me to start pole dancing. I got my pole, and if anyone that was following me on Instagram, which I put the page on private because I'm not promoting it, I leave it there so that people can see where I came from or the story. It's kind of like a book, but it's on private now. But anyways, I don't know if I'm gonna continue posting on it. Probably not. I just made a whole nother social media account. But so where was I? Oh, so anyone that was following me, I kind of shared like how I started, and I was looking a hot mess. I was looking like a fool. I was looking crazy. It's kind of like when you're first learning how to walk and you keep falling, but when you're like learning pole dancing, it looks worse because you're like falling and you're stumbling and you messing up stuff. And one time I didn't even put the pole up right, and it didn't basically fell. Thank God I didn't fall with it, but yeah, it fell down. So it was like, it was bad. And I think I started that in 2021. Yeah, 2021 is when I got the pole. All right. Then I got curious and I started dancing in the club. And it wasn't like it was my lifestyle, because remind you, at the same time, I was still in the military. Now people ask me, were you supposed to be dancing in the military? Look, I was bad. I did what I wanted to do. And I kind of found ways to do what I wanted to do. But yeah, I'm not promoting it. I don't know if you can or not. Don't listen to me. But yeah, so I started dancing in the club, and I would say like a few times out the month, but I never like I said, it was never like my lifestyle. I was just there. And I tell people it's kind of funny, but it's not really funny. I'm like, I feel like I was a spy. Like I was just there watching, observing, and just gathering information. And that whole operation in the club is crazy. I'll probably make another video talking about my experience as a dancer, stripper, whatever you want to call it. But I'll save that topic for another video. So yeah, I was in and out the club, and then I think I went back home. I was like, I want to try it here. And I went back home. So it started with the pole dancing, then it led me in the club. And then I also what the person who gave me my first pole lesson, we still cool to this day. We grew real close with each other. She would learn something, teach me. I would learn something, teach her. And yeah, that was that. And I remember being in the club, like my last time in the club, it kind of like hit me like, you like to pole dance, but you're in this club where that's not what like men want to see. They want to see your butt in their face, essentially. And it started getting to a point where I was asking myself like, why am I here? Like, it started not to make sense. So I stopped going to the club. Like, I was like, no, this isn't for me. And so then I started going to this pole studio, and they had everything from pole to yoga to belly dancing. Like, it was like a playground for arts. And so I went there, and I remember my first day there, they were like, hey, what studio did you come from? Like one of the instructors. And I said, I didn't come from a studio, I came from my house. And it was because the level that I had reached from teaching myself, well, really watching and observing like videos on social media, and then being able to watch and implement it. For me, it was, I'm not gonna say like pole dancing itself was easy, but my ability to learn and execute what I just learned was easy. And so when I got there, they were like, you had to come from a studio to know how to do all this stuff. And I was like, no, I just came from like my house, like in the living room that I turned into an area for me to pole dance. And that's how it started. That's how I started in the studio. Now the thing about the studio, so now I got different perspectives. I got perspectives from being like by myself in the house, being dedicated. Like by this time I was out the military when I had picked pole back up, because I was off and on with it. And I got out the military and I got a job, and I was working 10-hour shifts, and I would get off and I would go home and I would watch, and then I would exercise or work out, whatever the workout was that I just watched, and do that immediately after I got off work. And it was like I wasn't tired. I was tired, but I had enough energy to do that. And so eventually I stopped going to the studio because I was like, I'm paying $300 a month for them to teach me something that I was able to teach myself for free. Granted, it was a learning experience. So was it worth it? I feel like it was, because I learned a lot. Like in the studio, they teach you technique. They teach you basically how to make it look pretty during a performance, or how to like do it the proper way according to the rules that someone else wrote. And I think for me, I took what was for me and I left the rest, but it wasn't worth it, because it kind of like forced me to perform based off someone else's steps. And I think at the house I was able to combine a little bit of who I am into what I was doing. And yeah, I stopped going to the studio. I was like, yeah, no. And then yeah, I think I started to realize like there was really no difference. Like in the club, it's not focused. Like, it's no structure to the pole dancing. It's just you're just doing whatever. And then it doesn't make sense to be in the club pole dancing, well, at least where I was going. It didn't make sense to be in the club pole dancing because what I started to realize was I would draw the attention because I would be the one that knew like how to pole dance. And then all the big booty girls would come around the stage. And I mean, obviously if the money is for me, I'll get it. But they would, you know, people are desperate. Women are in different positions in life. So if they see someone coming up to the stage, even though I drew the attention to it, they're going to try to get that money. So at that point, it was like, the club don't make sense. I'm not about to do all this. I'm not about to keep doing this. And then in the studio, it was like, well, it looked pretty because they have the money to do it. So from the black angle, like from being black, it was like they don't have money, so they're doing this for money. And then in the studio, it was like, oh, we have money, but we're making it kind of difficult for other people to learn because when I first started paying, it was $300 a month. And then when I looked at the prices again, it had went up to $450. And it was like, I feel like obviously it's business, whatever they got going on as far as business determines their prices, have nothing to do with me. But at the same time, I know it would be difficult for people like black people to get in there because we're not gonna pay no $450 a month for pole classes, but another set of people will. And so once I analyzed every angle of me being a pole dancer, I asked myself, like, where am I going with this? Like, I don't want to teach it. I never wanted to teach it. I don't want to compete in it. Like, I considered it, like, just to say I did it, but I don't want to compete in it because it doesn't make sense to compete in pole dancing because how I do it, I just knew that I wasn't going nowhere with I wasn't going nowhere with it. I knew I was good, and I knew if I would have, well, I don't know this, but I feel like if I would have kept, at that time, I felt like if I would have kept doing it, I would have been raw at it because my ability to learn and execute and be disciplined enough to train. And so once I started questioning it, I think that's when answers started coming my way, like how I should go. Like, should I let it go? Should I not let it go? Like, what should I do? And I remember I was in this English class, and because I'm a full-time student right now for sports business. So like, I had took this English class, and we were supposed to be reading out this book, and I'm doing something else, reading something that wasn't even part of the assignment, and it caught my attention because it said Polestar. And I was like, Polestar? I thought I created that term, like, what's a Polestar? So it caught my attention, and I started like doing research, and I'm like, oh, Polestar is like another term for the North Star. And I was like, okay. And that the North Star is what people use as like a compass back in old times to get to a destination. But before I even knew that, it was like I knew that because that was my name on Instagram for a while, Polestar. And so then I kept that in the back of my head. And I took another class, and this class was a dance history and criticism class, and we focused mainly on ballet. And I started seeing like understanding dance and how like it could not be good. Like, dance is a form of worship, but if someone else is calculating your steps, choreographing your steps, you're moving off the rhythm of their beats, and who knows and what state of mind were they in when they created these dances. And that's kind of how I felt when I was pole dancing. Like, I don't feel like I was under the influence of God when I was dancing. And sometimes I look at certain videos of myself and I was like, yeah, you definitely was in a dark place. And in the dance history class, they had this dance called the maypole. And because it said the term pole, it caught my attention. So I got curious, what is the maypole? And so the maypole is basically like this pole that they had made, and it had a ring at the top, and then they would have people dancing around the pole, wrapping these like ribbons around the pole. Mind you, this thing erected all the way up into the sky. And so they would dance around the pole, and from my understanding and what I have researched, the pole represented a penis, and the earth that the ring at the top was supposed to fall down into was Mother Earth. And they did that to worship whatever god or deity it was in order to produce rain, because they did this dance during the springtime. So it was to produce rain to fertilize the land so that they can get these crops. And so when I learned that, it was like, boom, there go your answer. Like, you didn't know what you were doing, but this is what you were doing. And everything that seems pretty and good, and even though you're good at it, it always has a meaning behind it. So you gotta make sure, like, I think I learned from that is to make sure what I'm doing is of God. And also, I think, where was I going with that? Okay, so, and then I was kind of like debating if I should share this or not, but I'll share it. Whoever it's for, whoever is not, whatever. But also, I was shown, like, this was before I started realizing, like, I was having visions. It's like basically you're seeing things, but you're awake. It's like an awakened dream. And so I was shown like this baby trying to climb up this pole, and it was like a ring of light above the pole, and this big giant leg, like, was, as the baby like is climbing up the pole, it was like kicking the baby back down. And I was like, uh-oh. I was like, I don't know 100% what that means, but common sense would tell me it's not good. So that was like the confirmation, like, yeah, you're on the right track, and what you're understanding isn't anything you're like making up. And this is the confirmation that I'm giving you and showing you. Like, how I interpret it was a baby being innocent in a sense and trying to reach up to a point that it's not going to be able to make on this thing, which is the pole. Someone else, I shared it with someone, and they was like, or maybe it was like showing you that you can't be born again unless you let it go. And I was like, that's a good interpretation too. But all in all, I let it go. And I get people asking me, well, just because like you're a Christian, now do you have to stop pole dancing? Look, if you want to play with God, that's on you. I know what He has shown me, and I'm not condoning it. What I'm telling you is, you don't have to, but because God has given us free will. But if I was to choose something that He has shown me is not the way, why would I continue doing it? Does that even make sense? No. So I let that go with no hesitation. And it was also like I felt like I was desperate for an answer. Like I was looking, like I was doing so much at the time, I was looking for something to let go. Like I was looking literally for the path that I'm supposed to be on. And so once that was shown to me, it was like, oh, it's nothing. Like, even though to other people, that was my passion, that's your passion, Jazz, or you're really good at it. It don't matter. Like, if God has shown me what I need to do and to go against that, I would be a fool. So I let it go. That's my story. That's how I started pole dancing. If you ask me to teach you something, I won't teach you it. If you ask me to support anything with pole, I won't do it. I'm not going to do it. I remember following these two people on Instagram because they pole dance, and then they gave their life to Christ. But I didn't understand at the time. Like, one of them, she was going crazy. Like, she was making a lot of money in Miami, but she was like a stripper for real. And so that was like her lifestyle. And so one day I scrolled on the I actually unfollowed her, and now I feel stupid because I understand now. But I was scrolling on her page. It was like she was stumping on the pole, like she was breaking it apart, like she was destroying it. And so I was like, oh, this girl done lost her damn mind. I was like, she done lost her mind. I unfollowed her, and now that I have a better understanding on what the Asherah pole is according to biblical text, and then I'll put the scripture in the video. But I see what she was doing. Now, would I have been that dramatic about it? It ain't for me to judge how she exited out of her past life, but you're supposed to destroy the poles, because that pole was considered a Canaanite goddess. And so God instructed the Israelites to go into the land of the Canaanites and destroy their gods. And that's what she was doing. And I was like, all right, it's making sense, it's clicking, I get it. But that's my story.